For the Food Energy Lab, I'm going to go over the materials and then show you how to put everything together. So the first thing you need to do is get an electronic balance, and we're going to use the hundredth. You may have one group that will be the thousandth, in which case you will simply round to the nearest hundredth or 2 places. If it has a cover on it, you need to take that off. Okay, it just kind of snaps off, and just put that aside. Then you need to take everything out of your tub, paying attention so you can put it back in the tub for the next class. Then you unload everything. One thing you'll need to do is go to the sink, just use tap water, and get 50 milliliters of water. And you're going to get this 2 different times because we're doing 2 different foods. So we'll put that aside. We're going to be using the LabQuest, and if it's not charged or turning on, then you will need to get the power supply and plug that in, and it will go right there. Okay. We're going to use a temperature probe, and to set that up, just need to plug into channel 1 would be fine, and be careful of that white clip again. Okay. So that's ready. And now to set up our apparatus. We've got a few things. We have a ring stand, we have a metal tray, and we also have an iron ring that's going to hold our can. So when you're putting this together, the best thing to do, move this out of the way, is to put the stand so that you're looking at the back of the stand, and we're going to build from the bottom up, okay? So we're going to use this tray in case any food or ashes fall off. We also need to take one of our cans, and I've got them numbered 1 and 2 so you don't get them mixed up. And since we're looking at temperature, we are switching out cans, switching out water, because we don't want to start with a different temperature. There are 2 holes in the can, and this is a glass stirring rod with a little rubber stopper in case it gets too warm. And we're simply going to slide that through so that it hangs. Okay, so that's going to be collecting our temperature of our water. We need to put our ring on our ring stand. Okay, and we'll adjust that in just a second once we get all the food holder and everything together. We're going to need the electrode support that's going to hold my temperature probe. And then we are going to put together our food holder. So you've got a Ziploc bag that has several pieces of foil, and there's also a piece of window screen with a paper clip, and then just bend that down so it looks like this, and then you can make like a little tray. And this is what we're going to sit our food in when we burn it. And we've got 2 different ones. The foil, you should have 4 pieces of foil. If not, then see me, okay? 1 piece of foil is going to cover our cork so that we don't burn up our wooden fork. And you can just put it on the table and wrap it around like so. And then our paper clip that's stapled to our window screen is going to go into the cork. And there may be some soft spots, so just kind of find it so that it's supported. We want that so that the food sits nice and neat right there. Okay, so that's my food holder. The other piece of foil, so we've got 4 pieces, 2 for the food holders, and 2 will be covering the hole in our can, because we want to contain as much heat as possible. We're going to try to make a closed system, if at all possible. So, before we ever get started, we need to find some mass. And every table is doing 2 food samples. So, table 1, for example, will be doing popcorn and marshmallow. And they're labeled table 1, sample 1, sample 1. When we fill out the Google Doc tables, you need to be very careful and pay close attention that you are entering in the correct samples, your data. Because 3 groups will be testing these 2 foods, and then 3 groups will be testing raisins and potato chips. That way we don't have to repeat it several times. So we're basically doing 3 samplings of the food, and then we're going to find the average. And you only need a small piece of food. Now, I shouldn't have to tell you, do not eat any of this food. For example, the marshmallows, they are hard so that they burn really well, but I think I've been working on this bag for 5 or 6 years, okay? So all of this is really dried out and makes it easier to burn. So let's say I'm doing the marshmallow, okay? I need to find the mass both before and after burning. So I'm going to turn on my electronic balance and wait for it to zero out. We're going to have some numbers that are going to pop up, and you'll hit 0. These are very sensitive. So if you're bumping the table at all, if you're touching the table or you're touching the balance, it's going to change. So make sure no one's touching anything and then zero that out. So I need to find the mass of my food holder, and I'm going to record that. Now do not assume that this food holder will be the same as the other food holder. Always find the mass of every single thing that you put together. So it's going to jump around a lot, but so if it hits a number several times, just go with that number. Then I'm going to find the mass of the food holder plus the food. So now it's all together. Then I'm going to put that into my table, and I'm going to subtract the numbers to find the mass of just the food. Now yes, I could find the mass of the food like that. However, at the end, I need to find the mass of the burnt food. A lot of it's going to be sticking to my screen, so I need to include that in my mass. So by doing this to begin with, and now it's burnt, now I can put the whole thing on with the burnt food and subtract it for the original food holder and find the mass of the food after burning. So hopefully that makes sense. Just take a look at your table, and it tells you exactly what you're going to subtract from one another, and there is a space for you to record the mass of the food holder. Okay. So this is going to go on our tray. Then I need to find the mass of the can. So I find that. Then I'm going to pour in, not over the balance, I'm going to pour in my 50 milliliters of water. Okay. And then I'm going to find the mass of that. And I'm do exactly the same thing as whenever I found the mass of my food holder. So now I can start putting things together. And so that's going to be suspended. I need to have the bottom of the can to the top of the food 1 inch. So this is where a couple of hands come in handy. So one person can hold the ruler and one person can lower the ring, and make sure you're at eye level. So we're going to say that that is 1 inch. Okay. So that's 1 inch from the top of the food to the bottom of the can. Then I'm going to set up my probe. You can either put it in the large opening or the small one. That might be better so it doesn't slide around. And since we're working with an open flame, we want to tuck this cord out of the way so that it doesn't reach in front of the flame. Okay? Now what I need to do is lower my probe into my can. Remember, it has the water in it. So now I'm going to lower into my can. And the best way to do this, because it needs to be, the tip of it needs to be centered in the can, both around and depth-wise. It's kind of hard to see since it's not a clear can. So I go all the way to the bottom and touch the bottom. And then I come up about maybe a ½ inch to 1 inch, and then try to get it in the center. Try to have it so the probe is not touching any part of the can. We want as much of just the temperature of the water as possible. Okay, then I need to take my foil and I tear it just a little bit. I don't tear it in half. And I'm going to surround, and I'm going to tighten it up, close up all my holes as much as possible. Okay, to overlap it even on the sides so I can get a closed system as much as I possibly can. Now you're going to turn on your LabQuest. Takes a little bit to open up. Now, to light the food, there's some different ways you can do it. First of all, you do not want to put the open flame directly under the can. And there is a question on your write-up about this, because I'm not finding the heat given off by the food by doing that. I'm finding the heat given off by my lighter. So when I light, I want to pull it to the side, and I can light it from the side, the top, the bottom, whichever makes sense. Okay, so I want to get it lighting, and then it's going to start to smoke, so you have to hold a little bit. Okay, not yet. Okay, so when it starts smoking, then I'm going to move it over, and then I will let it burn until it either stops burning or stops smoking. Okay, looks like one of those snakes, doesn't it? Okay, so it's getting ready to extinguish. I got a little bit of smoke still falling, got a little flame on the back side. Okay, then I quickly light it again. I want to make it so it's totally black all over, and that's where you need to maybe come from the bottom and keep lighting, and then immediately slide it over. You keep going back and forth until there's nothing. It will not light anymore, or it's all burnt up. Okay, then when I'm done, so someone needs to be watching the Quest for the temperature probe, okay? If by chance you have a piece of food where the temperature will reach 60 degrees Celsius, then you kind of need to stop it. But someone needs to watch, because you need to record the minimum temperature, that's before you start, and the maximum temperature is the process of burning. So you need to watch that and maybe make a little note off to the side, and that's what you're going to record in your data table. When you're finished, you're then going to find the mass of the burnt food and the food holder, and then in order to find the mass of the burnt food, I will subtract it from the original food holder. So hopefully this all makes sense, and then when I'm finished with this particular food, I'm going to take everything apart, throw my foil away, take my can to the sink. I'm going to empty out the water. I'm getting a new can, and I'm getting another graduated cylinder of 50 milliliters of water. I'm going to make a new food holder. I am going to reuse the cork, and I will have a bin at the sink to put all of this burnt food and all that good stuff. Throw the foil away, and then I'm going to start over with a clean piece of foil, finding the mass of that food holder, finding the mass of this can, because if these cans were not off of the same roll at the manufacturer, it could be different masses, just for whatever reason, okay? So the amount of metal in here could change from can to can. That's why I want to find the mass every single time of all of my new pieces. So hopefully that makes sense. I will have written directions in the binder. So if you have any questions before we start the lab, ask, because this lab you will be doing on your own. So if you need to watch this video a couple times, then you might want to do that.